You getting mad and I'm getting rich. What's up, my dudes? MX Bikes is hard? Oh my god. Holy crap. Okay. So, all I've been getting is a bunch of this, Spencer, you need to ride on the harder tracks. Spencer, you're not even fast in the game. Spencer, race me in the game. Spencer. Right? We've been seeing a lot of that. Okay? So, every once in a while, you got to come in here and, put the proof to the pudding a little bit. So, I've actually went in here and put a little bit of effort into the game for a day, for literally a day, okay? Just to show you what happens, all right? And let me preface this by saying, this is somebody that has put less than 200 hours into the game, and that has been spread out over a 4 to 5 year time period, okay? Less than 200 hours, and here's just a little sprinkle on top. I'm still running stock suspension, boy. This is completely stock suspension in the game. Come on now. You boys really need to stop acting like MX Bikes is some super hardcore, skill-gapped, difficult simulator. You really need to stop that. In reality, I hate to break it to you, what it actually is a simulator arcade hybrid. That's what it actually is. How much more do I have to prove, dog? I'm running stock suspension, barely put a little bit of effort into the game. I'm talking just barely. Just barely. I was like, you know what? Today I'm going to actually go in here on this Netherlands, hardest, a lot of people consider it the hardest track on MX Bikes. Shitload of roughness. Shitload of pre-made. All right, I'll get in here for a few hours today and actually put a little bit of effort into it just to show you what happens when I do that, especially in the higher field of view camera mode that I've been telling you guys about. I'll just go in here and show you, okay? I mean, you should be able to just tell in the gameplay, but it's like, dog. And again, I'm not saying I'm pro-level speed in the game, okay? There's a big difference between going around a track, and hitting the jumps and getting over the roughness and doing all that, and then going around a track really fast, right? There's a big difference there. And with all of my previous simulator knowledge, that's how I know that. Like, that's basically the difference from the amateur class to the pro class on MX Simulator is, people are getting around the track in the amateur class, but the pros are getting around the track fast. That's the difference, right? And fast can be perceived in so many different ways. It's like, I'm not saying that I'm pro in the game, okay? But what I am telling you is it wouldn't take me very long. It wouldn't take me very long to get to that kind of point in this game. And you should be able to tell just from the difference in my gameplay, I don't know, a month ago to now. You should be able to tell a difference. Like when I did my track review on the Netherlands track compared to this gameplay where I actually put a little bit of effort into it, you should be able to see the difference, man. It's not even in the same stratosphere, not even in the same comparison as the difficulty and skill gap of MX Simulator. Whenever I'm playing MX Bikes, it literally feels like I'm playing MX Simulator with like the arcade mode turned on half. That's what MX Bikes feels like to me. Okay, I think it's very important for me to finally read off the main comment that sparked off this whole entire video series here, okay? So, this is coming from a dude named Rubs. This was on my, the Secret to MX Bikes video talking about the higher field of view, right? And once you read this comment, you will start to understand what I mean by just trying to discredit my opinion on the game. And you will start to understand how triggered this guy really is, okay? His name is Rubs, R-U-U-B-S, okay? Kind of like your comments, a bunch of BS, but let's get into it. He says, just wanted to say that high field of view and lock to the bike off isn't the secret that pros use. I've won the ARL SX Championship in Rizzo's Enduro Supercross Series and play with 110 field of view and lock to bike on. Pretty sure there's a few pros who use 1 to 10 field of view, lock to bike on, and use the first person camera, blah, blah, blah. And he goes on to say, and the reason why it's not possible to set your field of view that high in game is because it's unrealistic to do so. If Pibbs really didn't want people to be able to do this, he would have made it so that everything above 110 equals 110. This whole video was a bunch of fake news, yet again. And what he's actually talking about here is, in my video, I said something along the lines of, all of those pro dudes gameplay on YouTube that I've seen has this, super high field of view, not locked to the bike camera setting, which is not a false statement. That is literally all of the different kind of fast guys on YouTube that I've seen on MX bikes has been running that higher field of view. That's not a false statement. Just because you're some pro in the game and you run a different field of view doesn't mean that I haven't seen a shitload of different gameplay where people are running a higher field of view. You do realize that, right? I never said that every single pro in MX bikes uses a super high field of view setting and not locked to the bike camera setting. I never said that. I never said that. Even if I said something like, it seems like, or, it kind of, I get the vibe that a lot of these pro dudes are running a higher field of view. I'm not saying that literally all of them are running a higher field of view. Do you see the difference? You starting to understand the difference there? You turned it into that when I never even actually said that. He couldn't just let me be, right? He couldn't just let me come in there and have my opinion on, hey guys, I raised my field of view higher than 110 in the game, and it's making the game literally 10 times easier for me, just trying to help people out that didn't realize that you could actually go in there and raise your field of view higher than 110 by going into the folders of the game. That's the only reason I made the video, was just letting people know that you can do that in the game. But no, this, champion on MX bikes here couldn't just let me be on that. No. And he calls it fake news when it's my own opinion of my own experience of raising the field of view in the game, making the game way easier for me. How the hell is that fake news? Just because you won some little championship and you run a different field of view, how the hell does that make what I'm saying fake news? You're just simply trying to discredit what I'm saying about MX bikes because you think you're some super champion in the game. How much more can it prove it than this comment, bro? And you gotta love him trying to sound so professional here. He says, and the reason why it's not possible to set your field of view that high in game is because it's unrealistic to do so. Oh, really? So that third-person camera that you can have inside of the game, that's not unrealistic or anything, is it? Nah, definitely not that. So if you raise your field of view any higher than 110, that's unrealistic, but a literal fucking third-person camera isn't? Oh, okay. Yeah, you got a lot of common sense, big dog. A lot of common sense. And the way that you know this guy is so triggered right here is because he says, this whole video was a bunch of fake news yet again, okay? Implying that all I've ever been saying about MX bikes is just a bunch of bullshit fake news. This is what I mean right here, right? Yet again, bunch of fake news yet again, right? This is hilarious, dog. You ought to be ashamed of yourself. You really should. And just to give you another little example, I know some of you guys might bring up this argument of, well, of course, MX Bikes is going to seem a lot easier to use, Spencer, because you have all that previous, simulator experience and all that kind of stuff. Okay, let me give you a good little example right here. I've never been scared, not even one time, the entire time that I've played MX Bikes, going through a whoop section on a Supercross track. I've never been scared going through a whoop section, not even once in the game. And I still to this day get a little fear in the back of my mind, a little scared like, oh, I might crash. Still to this day, on MX Simulator whenever I go through a whoop section in that game. Still to this day, bro. And I've got at least 100 times more time into MX Simulator than I do MX Bikes. At least. And I still have that whoop fear whenever I'm playing MX Simulator. And I've never even had it once on MX Bikes. Again, real life whoops in Supercross is not a simple task. It's not a simple thing, especially for the average rider. An average rider, I mean, you're gonna get a good chuckle if you watch some like average riders in real life try to go through a real hardcore Supercross whoop section. They're gonna be breaking both wrists, 2 broken wrists. Let's have a little throwback here. 2 broken wrists. They're gonna be flipping over on the bike. It's gonna be a disaster. Okay, that's my whole point. MX Bikes gives you that little helping hand all the way through every little process of the game, whether it's learning how to hold the bike up, or it's learning how to ride a wheelie, or it's when you start going over roughness really fast, or going through whoops, or hucking the bike doing a triple out of a corner on a Supercross track. Every single element of that is nowhere near as much of a wall that you hit like you do on MX Simulator. It's like every stage you go through on MX Simulator, you're hitting a wall. You're hitting a wall. It's like, I don't even know if I can triple out of a corner on a Supercross track. I remember thinking that for like months and months and months on MX Simulator. And then finally, I got to where I could do it. I remember thinking, man, there is no way I'm going to be able to whip this bike around backwards on MX Simulator. There's just no way I'm going to be able to do it, right? And then finally, you just after months and months and months of playing it every single day, grinding it out, you finally can do it. And blitzing a whoop section really fast on MX Simulator, like 3rd, 4th gear tapped. I thought, there is no way somebody can do that in this game. That's impossible. And then playing it every single day for another year straight, I finally got to where I could do it. MX Bikes is just not even the same thing, boys. It's not even the same thing. I'm not saying that MX Bikes is a bad game because of that. I never said that. I think it's fucking sick that we have a simulator that's got that more hand-holding, handicappy feeling to it, because what it's going to do is it's going to allow a lot more people coming from these arcade dirt bike games. It's going to allow them a little bit of an easier course into kind of working themselves into a simulator, right? And then they won't be so shell-shocked if they do decide to go to MX Simulator after going through MX Bikes, right? It's way smoother of a transition going from like an arcade motocross game to MX Bikes than going from an arcade motocross game to MX Simulator, right? But there is still so many of you pro boys on MX Bikes that you just can't accept this. You're trying to defend your sweet little baby egg till the bitter end, and you just can't accept that it's more arcadey and easier than MX Simulator. You just can't accept it. And it mind baffles me, bro. It really does mind baffle me. It's just unreal how some of you guys are still stuck in that mindset. And I've seen quite a few of you guys go down this road of, well, I'm a previous MX Simulator pro, and I came over to MX Bikes, and MX Bikes feels so much more, skill-gapped and realistic or whatever, or, I was an MX Simulator pro, right? I've seen multiple of you start saying shit like that. Okay, just because you say that you're an MX Simulator pro doesn't mean shit. You do realize that, right? Just being a quote-unquote pro on MX Simulator means absolutely nothing, dog. That does not prove a single thing. I find it to be hilarious when I see a lot of you MX Bikes, quote-unquote pros, tell me that you used to be a pro on MX Simulator, when in reality, you weren't actually a full-blown RF North American 450 top 5 pro on MX Simulator. You were like some European EMF top 10 250 pro in the game. Oh, wow. Or you just got into the pro ranks of MX Simulator and you never even worked your way up. There is such a big difference between just getting into the pro scene of MX Simulator for the first time and, like, you know, just qualifying 40th in a pro race and getting, you know, whatever, 40th in a national or whatever on MX Simulator, and actually getting like a top 5, you know what I'm saying, in a North American RF 450 race. That's totally different than getting 40th in a European, or fucking even 30th or 20th in a EMF, you know, European race, 250 race on MX Sim. There's just so many different, when you just say you're a pro on MX Simulator, that's really not saying anything. And just to give you a little example here, I've not seen a single one of these, what I call the actual legends of MX Simulator, like Tyson Fresquez, Hunter Root. I've not seen a single one of any of those guys that actually fucking dominated the pro race scene on MX Simulator come over to MX Bikes and claim that MX Bikes is so much more skill-gapped and, you know, realistic and all this stuff. I've not seen a single one of them say any of that. I feel like if there was a camera option on MX Simulator to make it not locked to the bike, right, where you could whip the bike over but still be looking straight and have more of that effect where it feels like the rider's head kind of turns when you're in a corner, you know, all that kind of stuff. If you could make your camera not locked to the bike on MX Simulator, I think there would be a lot more of you saying things like, MX Simulator looks or feels more realistic than MX Bikes, but that's the whole thing. You have that forced lock to the bike camera mode on MX Simulator, so whenever you throw a whip, it's basically the camera turns with your front fender, which in real life, a lot of times your head is more looking straight whenever you throw a whip, right? And like when you're going through a corner, your head kind of turns a certain specific way, and that's where I think a lot of you guys are getting that impression, certainly from a visual sense, that MX Bikes looks so much more realistic than MX Simulator, because you're not even seeing MX Simulator in that not locked to the bike camera mode. I genuinely believe if there was a not locked to the bike camera mode on MX Simulator, there'd be so many more of you guys thinking that MX Simulator actually feels more realistic than MX Bikes. But since it doesn't have that, it gives you more of that rigid camera setting. You understand what I'm saying? So you don't see your whips in the same way. You don't really see your cornering in the same way and all that kind of crap. But I think that's what gives people sort of that illusion that MX Bikes feels more realistic than MX Simulator. That not locked to the bike or locked to the bike camera setting can make a drastic difference on how something feels in the game. It makes such a drastic difference, man. It really does. But either way, MX Bikes is not as hard as a lot of you boys make it out to be. I'm not saying it's as easy as Reflex or as arcadey as these actual arcade motocross games. That's why I call it a arcade sim hybrid, okay? I'm not saying it's, you know, MXGP Pro or it's Reflex or it's, you know, one of these arcade motocross games. Pretty damn obvious that it's not that easy, okay? But when you get into this simulator world, I would consider it easier than the MX Bikes fanboys make it out to be. That was my whole argument, right? That's all I was ever trying to say.